Training Talk, episode 3. Welcome aboard. I'm Jeffro Trainer and we're going to talk training. Today we're going to be bringing up, we're going to cover some different stuff. So I'll kind of start with, we're definitely going to be talking about the bent over row. I'm going to ask some big questions, or I'm going to ask some questions. I've still got questions about this movement, and I want to know kind of where you stand on the bent over row. Are you a massive fan? Are you gonna recommend it to people? How regularly do you do the bent over row as a person? So as we start kind of going into the bent over row, let's have a look at it. Let's have a look at this monster, the level 1. So this I like to think of as the most basic version. This is the one where you can go nice and heavy, I believe. And I think this is the one you're going to mostly see. It's almost like they're standing near upright. This is the unusual version, but highly advanced. One I was taught. And yeah, this is really what is the kind of advanced bent over row. Now, I want to include this. It's the bent over row mixed with a deadlift, lots of different names for it. Strength exercise, big and strong, angry. You row and you hinge. Bent over row, yes, but a strength version. Want to include it because I love it. Better than the other two in my opinion. How many people out there are really doing bent over rows once a week? From being in the gym, I'd say you see some pretty awful bent over rows. You see a lot of beginners doing bent over rows. Badly, let's be honest. It's not great. You see some real hardcore gym members doing bent over rows. Old school guys, you know, thick set, palm up, angry, okay? They normally got big backs. But where does it go? So if you're watching this and you do bent over rows, are you a massive fan? Or kind of do you do it every so often? You know, we see a lot of it on the internet, and obviously it's in a lot of kind of the old school books. But really with the bent over row, what do you consider to be the right version? And as I re-show you my kind of picture here, is even the kind of Arnie version, right, looks quite a lot of traps. So would you say that the bent over row is pure lats? Or would you say the bent over row is traps, lats, and lower back? Okay, and as we'll be talking a little bit about injuries later on in the show, I want to ask, is it a missing link? And are a lot of people not doing it who need to be doing it? You know, so I love the bent over row over the last couple of years, but my question and where I'd throw the debate out is it big for you? Has it done loads of great things, right? And are you a believer of it? Or on the other side of the fence, are you someone who gets a better kind of pump off a machine? Do you feel like the bent over row is more of a strength exercise that you do every so often? And would you kind of more prefer to do machines and coach machines? Be honest. You know, a lot of people kind of want to do compounds. Other people are more relaxed and they do machines. And a lot of people in great shape, you know, they're not massive fans of bent over rows. So that's that kind of, I'll throw that out there for your bent over rows in terms of our exercise section. Hopefully that makes sense. Hey, I love it, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that everyone I know does them, and I coach them every week. They're a tough exercise. That's my take on it. So, bent over rows. Now, the sharp end. This week, I want to start to cover that massive subject of injuries. Okay, so injuries, niggly injuries, back, historic back problems, shoulder problems. Now, you know, can any of us really say, who have been training over like 5 years, that we're not working with injuries? So my question this week is your injury, your joint problem, a limitation or a motivation, right? So does it limit you or does it motivate you? E.g., said client this week who's got back in touch to start training again, gentleman, really, really bad spine problem, and I've obviously, smashed up kind of lower back. So we're doing some stuff today. Whenever he does abs, his abs hurt, spasms in his back. But he's had these problems for so long that he almost needs to do something physically. So on the one hand, a historic injury, and this client is training. If he doesn't train, he's in pain. So he's in pain generally. And when he does weights and works with training, the pain subsides. So isn't that strange? Maybe you're going through that, or how historic injuries, if you don't do anything, they hurt. Another coach that I know, because he hasn't trained for ages, he's in pain. So he needs to get training again. So that's the one hand of kind of niggly injuries. Are you someone who has a non-training injury and you need to avoid pain, you need to train? You don't hear a lot about that, do you? But I deal with it a lot, and you probably are in that camp of, what can't you do? How does your injury affect your training? And I'll bring this back to our bent over rows soon, but just as a kind of example as such, is I'm always talking to people in the gym, and you're probably someone who's watching this who's got a shoulder problem or a back problem, and you probably don't do, for example, certain types of presses because of your shoulder, or you probably don't do, as referring to earlier, bent over rows because of your historic back problem. Yeah, ironic. So that's the male client. Now also, I can't let this section go without talking about a female client, and really trying to highlight this shows for everyone. Obviously, I train a lot of blokes, but I've always trained a lot of women too. Gotta say, straight off the bat, some really hardcore, serious training going on within the female community in this day and age. So impressive. And said client, who's female, she's dealing with an upper back. So here's kind of my crazy world, which hopefully you'll find entertaining. This is a client who's got upper back pain. Yeah? This is a client who does lots of ballistic hip kettlebell swings, etc. This is a client who never does bent over rows. So here's the irony. Is this a client who should be doing bent over rows? And if bent over rows were more popular, would this particular client not have the back injury? So how ironic, which is just kind of how everything tends to piece together in my world. So said client has an upper back injury that, my opinion, is from a lack of strength, so a lack of upper back strength. So with your problems, do you understand completely your injury? And this is a conversation, so this isn't me kind of sitting and knowing it all. Like, hey, well, it might be this. We learn about our bodies sometimes through injury. We have our limitations. Have you found that some exercises make it better? And have you found that when you stop, it gets worse? Do you share that in the gym, or do you just kind of crack on and talk about, well, nothing, because you're just sitting there training? Really interesting. I find that you, the viewer, your injury and how you cope with it, you probably haven't thought about sharing it before. I would, because if you've got, example, a back injury and you got it from deadlifts, right? Do you see people doing deadlifts and do you mention it? Or do you just watch them doing it and kind of just wince? By the same token, if you've got an injury that you've just got, do you put it down to not being strong enough? So that's the kind of sharp end that I want to kind of touch on. We should talk more about injuries, so don't worry if you're kind of got niggly stuff. There's a lot, I think, of debate to say we need to talk more about injuries. Particularly as we've got a new generation of people coming up doing big ballistic movements. Is it helping? Is it hurting? Yeah, so hopefully that kind of ties together for you how bent over rows, and just to digress a bit more, how many people do we know who've got a bad back from bent over rows? I don't know anyone. Right, so I've never talked to someone, they've gone, I've got an injury from bent over rows, right? They've got back injuries, but they've never told me, I got that from doing bent over rows, on the one hand. On the other hand, everyone's got back injuries or shoulder injuries, right? So maybe it's just me, but does that crazily point towards the fact that we need to be doing more bent over rows? I don't know. That's something that I've just been kind of digressing with, sorting out the bits for this show. Maybe you watching this can join the dots for me. And maybe you've got something to say about bent over rows, back injuries, how maybe we can bring the two together. But that's your kind of sharp end kind of thoughts that I've been having this week. Now, I can't make a show like this and not regularly flag up something that's it bugs me, I'll be honest. It does bug me. And what bugs me and what I want to talk about is fitness and sports mind the gap. Now I'm going to keep banging on about this because in my world, I know sports people, sports coaches, athletes, and I know the fitness industry, okay? A lot of my sporty people, they don't work in the fitness industry, right? Maybe you can shed a light on this for me. Maybe you can tell me, maybe I'm mad. Maybe you could say, Jeff, you know what, you're going down the wrong road with this. But here's my take on this. Right. I asked last week, and I'm always going to ask, are you an athlete? And do you consider yourself to be an athlete? Now, the reason why I asked this is because I try to think of my personal training clients as athletes. I try to deal with them as such, and I talk to them like that, and I use that title, and sometimes I can see they're like, I'm not an athlete, I'm a complete, I just want to do this. I asked that last week. What I said I wanted to start digressing on is the role of coach. Have we sold out or sold the role of coach? And the reason why I ask this is, if your client is not an athlete, are you a coach or are you a service provider? Right? So kind of to tie this in the fitness industry, we have personal trainers, we have fitness instructors, class instructors, managers, etc. on the one hand. Then we have customers, clients, gym users on the other, right? We've got a lot of people who are considered gym members. You're a member of a gym, right? We've got a lot of coaches who are considered personal trainers. I want to ask you watching this, is that when you see a personal trainer, or if you are a personal trainer, does that role hold any value in this day and age? You know, is it a position of integrity? Do you stand there and go, oh, he's a personal trainer, or she's a personal trainer? Have we sold that role? Have we sold it to say anyone can do it? And are sports people and sports coaches watching the industry going, what is going on? What is that person? What is that relationship? You know, that is a client and a personal trainer. That is not a sports coach and an athlete. And that's the debate and the thing that I want to start throwing out. Where are you watching this? What are you? Are you an athlete? Are you a coach? You know, this is what it does. I think it's something that is not being talked about at all. I think that, you know, we're in the UK, I've got strong views on the state of what I consider to be a commercial fitness industry, and a gap between the fitness industry and sports. And let me just rerun this slide so I can talk you through what I think. It's just really weird, kind of messed up situation. The personal trainer with the clipboard, with the attractive female client. A lot of chemistry there, isn't there? You know, a lot of chemistry. It's like, you know, they're both under 30. They're having fun. On the right, a coach and an athlete. The athlete's smiling, the coach isn't. Coach is focused. He's trying to show something. The athlete is smiling, but there's nothing flirtatious going on there. I want to start kind of sparking the debate on whether fitness and sports are that different. You know, you're teaching someone how to do exercise, you're creating a training program, you're following a training system. Isn't that just an athlete and a coach? And, you know, with personal trainers in that situation, like the flirtatious, you know, what is that all about? What are we doing? What sort of image are we promoting for training? Anyway, so that's my kind of 5 pence worth on fitness and sports. Mind the gap. I'm going to keep banging on about each episode. Hopefully that's interesting for you. I certainly want to know where you stand, and I certainly want to develop this line of thoughts. So certainly drop me a comment and let me know if you've got any strong views on that, or if I'm just out of my head. You know, Jeff, you're out of your head. Move on. You can tell me if you want to move on, if you want me to drop this segment and move on. Drop a comment. Either way, I've certainly could talk about that all day. So, as a roundup of today's show, we talked about bent over rows. We talked about bad backs. I had my bit of fitness and sport rant. These episodes are going to keep coming thick and fast. I've got so much to talk about, and hopefully hopefully you're enjoying it. I'll try and talk a bit about food next step. I know that's important to a lot of you. I want to start going to this community. I think there's a lot of hot air going on at the moment. This kind of community kind of nonsense that I'm hearing about, like tribe. Join my tribe, you know. Join our community. Here's one. Join our private Facebook group. So have any of you kind of got suckered into a private Facebook group, tracking your goals and results? Anyway, you know, as I said, I'm going to keep cranking it up, and you know, I appreciate you for watching. Tune in for the next episode every week. I'm going to try and crank these out. We've got a lot to talk about. All right, I think it's a mess, our industry, and I want some debate going on. You know, let's stop hiding from it. Let's stop pretending like it's all fine and dandy. All right, so thanks for watching. That's the end.